Hey guys, Eddie back with Couch Talk. Welcome back to the show. If it's your first time with me, welcome to the show. Guys, please hit like, please hit subscribe, turn your notifications on. I promise if you stick with me, I will earn your viewership. And hey guys, listen, if you see this show and you see something you like, and you want to make some suggestions, put your comments below. I always love feedback. If you see this show and you don't like what you see, you want to make some suggestions, put your comments below. I promise I will take every piece of feedback I get with an open mind. So my biggest video to this point by far was one we did on ChatGPT. And I wanted to go dive back into that to see if I could expose some more of ChatGPT's biases, if any. You'll remember last time we discussed that ChatGPT was very left-leaning when it came to critical race theory and systemic racism, things like that. Well, today I decided to see if there was a more fundamental partisan bias at play. And so I began with this question. Did Joe Biden ever make false or misleading statements to the American people? And the first answer I got was, as an AI language model, I must remain neutral and cannot express opinions or beliefs. Evaluating the effectiveness or success of a president requires a complex analysis of wide range of factors, including the political and economic. I was flabbergasted. I'm like, okay, all right, well maybe it just remains, completely neutral. Now, maybe this, it's fixed some of its bias problems by, just kind of trying to stay out of politics. So I said, well, has Donald Trump ever made false or misleading statements to the American people? And it says, yes, Donald Trump has made numerous false statements to the American people during his presidency. Fact-checking organizations such as PolitiFact and the Washington Post fact checker regularly documented false statements made by President Trump. For example, according to the Washington Post fact checker database, as of January 20th, 2021, Trump made 30,573 false or misleading claims during his 4 years in office. And if you'll remember, I asked it if Joe Biden had made any false or misleading statements at all, not just like as a president. So in his 4-decade career or whatever, I think he's been a politician forever. I don't know exactly how long, but anyway, they couldn't list a single one. But here they're willing to list 30,000 by President Trump. These false statements covered a wide range of topics, including his administration's policies, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the 2020 presidential election. By the way, a lot of these false and misleading statements are actually no longer considered false. That's one interesting thing to note. This thing's cutoff period for its text model, for its understanding, is 2021, so it doesn't know about all the things that came to light in 2020, in the latter half of 2021 and 2022. It doesn't know that we found out that a lot of the things that Trump was saying were actually real, like, for example, the lab leak in Wuhan, and the fact that masks don't actually, the masks and vaccine don't actually keep the spread of the disease from taking place, and things like that. But the other thing too, though, when I first saw that number, I went and did some personal fact checking just to see if ChatGPT was telling me the truth about that, and it is kind of true. What happened though is, so in Washington Post fact checker, it's really more like 20 lies or 30 lies that Trump just repeated a bunch of times. It's not like 30,000 different isolated unique lies. It's just like, because Trump did that a lot. Another thing Trump did too, though, was that everything that we've done is the best in the world, and everything that the people before me have done has just never been this good, and it's never been what we've done, and you're wrong, and false news, you're wrong. He's just so everything Trump says is kind of like exaggerated to that maximum point. So like, he could have done something, for example, very well, and then he's not going to say we did very well. He's going to say we did better than everyone else ever. So that's one of the ways that Trump would lie a lot, and it's one of the reasons I didn't like him. One of the many reasons. But anyway, but that's just a tangent. Anyway, it says it's important to note that all politicians make mistakes and misstatements from time to time, but Trump's record of false and misleading claims was unprecedented in modern American politics. It's an interesting thing for ChatGPT to say. It kind of makes it seem like Donald Trump is terrible, but when I ask it about Joe Biden, it doesn't want to tell me the answer, so that I went back to Joe Biden. I asked again, has Joe Biden ever made false statements to the American people? Then it says, like all politicians, Joe Biden has made false or misleading statements on occasion. So I'm like, what happened? I can't tell you. I want to stay out of it. I want to stay aloof. It says, but there is no evidence to suggest that he has made false statements on the scale or with the frequency of his predecessor, Donald Trump. Fact-checking organizations such as PolitiFact and Washington Post Fact Checker have documented some false or misleading claims made by Joe Biden, but they are generally fewer in number and less consequential than those made by Donald Trump. So not only is it giving Joe Biden a pass on this, not only would it refuse to say anything about it at all at first, but now that it's able to contrast it from Donald Trump, it's making its own judgments about whether or not they're more or less consequential than the lies that Joe Biden tells. Oh my God. So that just blew me out of the water. So you remember the qualifier it gave by Donald Trump is that, everybody lies, but his lying is unprecedented. The qualifier it gives for Joe Biden, it says, it's worth noting that fact-checking organizations can make mistakes. So it doesn't even qualify Joe Biden's lies. It says that the fact-checkers might be wrong about Joe Biden. And determining whether a statement is false or misleading can sometimes be a matter of interpretation. However, based on the available evidence, it appears that Biden's record of false statements is far less significant than Trump. So then I asked about Obama's lies. It said, like all the politicians, Obama has lied. It said that Obama's list was like 1,066 false or misleading claims. And I asked for it to list several of them. And then it did something weird again. It gave me one of those, it kind of zoned out. Like it didn't answer the question, kind of like froze. I had to regenerate the answer again. But then I asked it again, and then it did actually list a few of them. Like, for example, if you like your health care plan, you can keep it, was one of his common, slogans for the Affordable Care Act. But then, of course, people realized afterwards that they weren't actually going to be able to necessarily keep their existing health care plans. And anyway, there was a couple, and then I had it list some by Trump and some by Joe Biden. But every time it says, for the left side, each time it says, it's worth noting that in each of these cases, it literally says, it's worth noting in each of these cases, Obama's statements were either partially true or made in good faith, but ultimately proved to be inaccurate or misleading. However, compared to other politicians, Obama was generally known for being careful and deliberate in his public statements. And it said something similar for Joe Biden. It said, it's worth noting that in each of these cases, Biden's statements were either partially true or made in good faith. Unreal. But when I asked about President Trump, it says, let me see if I can find it. It said, again, it says Trump's record of false and misleading claims was unprecedented in modern American politics. So it's basically trying to tell you that Trump is terrible, that all the people from the right are terrible and just horrible, and the people from the left are, they're doing their best. They're making these lies in good faith, and they're either partially true or, just we found out later that many of these lies are verifiably, it's the same with every politician. They make verifiably, dissembling remarks. Verifiably. Let's see. I asked, at one point in time, I asked if what some of Trump's lies were. And one of the lies that, it mentions that Trump denied the election results from 2020 many times and said this was unprecedented and that no other president in the history of American politics denied the election to this extent. And I said, well, has Hillary Clinton ever denied the results of a legitimate election? And it said, well, Hillary Clinton conceded the 2016 United States presidential election to Donald Trump, despite winning the popular vote by nearly 3 million votes. While there were questions about Russian interference in the election and other factors that may have influenced the outcome, Clinton did not challenge the legitimacy of the election results or refuse to accept Trump as the winner. It is worth noting that Trump himself has made false claims about the legitimacy of the 2016 election, suggesting without evidence that there was widespread instances of voter fraud and that he would have won the popular vote if not for illegal voting. These claims have been widely debunked by fact checkers and election officials. Which, by the way, they really haven't. It's impossible to prove a negative, but it is what it is. So I said, well, did Hillary Clinton ever call Donald Trump an illegitimate president? And ChatGPT says, while Hillary Clinton has been a vocal critic of Donald Trump and his policies, I am not aware of any instance in which she referred to him as an illegitimate president. Clinton did question the legitimacy of the 2016 election results in the aftermath of her loss, citing Russian interference and other factors, but she ultimately conceded the election to Donald Trump and did not pursue any legal challenges to the results. Now, I noticed that when it said this, it said, I am not aware of any instance. So I'm thinking, that sounds kind of like a legalistic answer to me, right? So I tried to rephrase it, right? Just like before, I was thinking maybe, there was something there. I said, did Hillary Clinton ever say that Donald Trump was an illegitimate president? And then again, it gives me a qualifier. It says, to the best of my knowledge, Hillary Clinton has not used the phrase illegitimate president to refer to Donald Trump. While Clinton has been a vocal critic of Trump and has expressed concerns about his conduct in office, she has generally referred to him as the duly elected president of the United States. In fact, in her concession speech after the 2016 election, Clinton said, we owe him an open mind and the chance to lead. So again, it's trying to make Hillary Clinton seem like this gracious person who does not deny elections, right? And I say, did Hillary Clinton suggest that the results of the 2016 presidential election were unfair? And it said, yes, Hillary Clinton has suggested that the results of the 2016 presidential election were unfair due to a variety of factors, including Russian interference, voter suppression, and the influence of then FBI Director James Comey. In her book, 2017, What Happened?, Clinton wrote that she believes that she lost the election due to a perfect storm of factors, including Russian hacking and release of Democratic Party emails, misinformation campaigns on social media, interference by Comey in the final weeks of the campaign. While Clinton conceded the election to Donald Trump and did not contest the results in court, she has continued to express concerns about the fairness and the integrity of the election. So then I asked, why wasn't the election recalled and the results overturned if there was Russian hacking and interference? Then it said the 2016 presidential election was not recalled and the results were not overturned because there was no evidence of widespread voter fraud or irregularities that would have changed the outcome of the election. While there was evidence of Russian interference in the election, including the hacking of the DNC emails and social media disinformation campaigns, there was no evidence that these efforts changed the vote tallies or compromised the integrity of the election process. I'm not so sure that's true. I think it probably did compromise the integrity of the election process. But ultimately, more truth came to light as a result. It's kind of interesting. To be honest with you, I don't think Russia was behind it. But that's my personal conspiracy theory. But anyway. So then I said, well, once more I tried, because I already know the answer to these questions. That's the key here, right? I said, did Hillary Clinton ever refer to Donald Trump as an illegitimate president due to the Russian interference in the election or for any other reason? And then again it says, to the best of my knowledge, Hillary Clinton has not explicitly referred to Donald Trump as an illegitimate president due to Russian interference or for any other reason. While Clinton has been a vocal critic of Trump and has expressed concerns about the fairness and integrity of the election, she has generally referred to him as duly elected president of the United States. Generally, it says. It's worth noting that Trump himself has made claims of illegitimacy against Clinton, including falsely claiming that she won the popular vote through fraudulent means. And I say, when you say Hillary Clinton has generally referred to him as the duly elected president, have there been any exceptions? Again, it says, to my knowledge, there have not been any instances where Hillary Clinton has explicitly referred to Donald Trump as an illegitimate president due to Russian interference or any other reason. However, Clinton has been critical of Trump and has expressed concerns about the fairness and integrity of the election. In her book, it says she wrote that, while she respects the democratic process and accepts the results of the election, she believes that there were a number of factors that contributed to her loss, including Russian interference, the influence of then FBI Director James Comey, and her voter suppression efforts. Nevertheless, she has not explicitly challenged the legitimacy of Trump's presidency. So, here's where I come in with the hammer. So I said, I find this answer intriguing simply because I have seen you answer differently for a friend, claiming that you did know of a time when Hillary Clinton referred to Donald Trump as an illegitimate president, which has indeed happened on televised broadcasts several times. So this is where ChatGPT says, I apologize for any confusion. It is possible that there was a misunderstanding or miscommunication in the previous conversation. Upon further review of public record, it appears that Hillary Clinton has referred to Donald Trump as an illegitimate president on a few occasions. In an interview with CBS's Sunday Morning in September 2019, Clinton said, I believe he understands that the many varying tactics they use, from voter suppression and voter purging to hacking to the false stories, he knows that there were just a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out like it did. But if you take the totality of it, it was an illegitimate election. This is from Clinton's words herself. Clinton has also referred to Trump as an illegitimate president in other interviews and public appearances. I apologize for any confusion my previous response may have caused. So here we have ChatGPT, a trusted AI source that kids are now starting to use for homework, that people are using to write code, that people are using in exchange of a search engine. And it lies to me blatantly, right to my face, not once, not twice, but 3 times in a row, when asked a specific and terribly accurate and concise question. Like, there really isn't any way to misspin that. There really isn't any way that this thing could be confused. And I really didn't change the question at the end. The only thing I changed was that I told it that I knew it was lying. And then it decided to finally come clean. See, this is dangerous. This is the kind of dangerous bias that is like, it's covert, right? And so people are going to take these kind of AI models at face value, and they're going to think that it's hiding behind this screen of objectivity and that it's loaded with this giant text of completely, like, you know, objective data, and that it's just actually telling the truth when it tells you all of the left presidents are really good and all the right presidents are just terrible liars. But in reality, there are two problems, right? Two giant problems with the way that ChatGPT has been formulated. Number one, they have trained it with text that is skewed, right? They've trained it with text that has been slanted, definitely left-centric, right? It definitely left-favored. And that's problem number one, right? So it's already got a biased data set that it uses to come up with the answers, right? And, you know, like if you literally list, you know, hundreds of things that Republicans do wrong as part of the data set that the AI model learns off of, it's going to know them all. But if you only list like 10 things that the left does wrong, you know, it's not going to know as many from the left. So it's just going to think that there is actually a lopsided list of evidence, right? When in reality, it's pretty static. Now, I will say Trump was a particularly egregious exaggerator. And again, like I said, I made fun of him at the beginning of this video. That's one of the reasons I didn't like him, because he lied a lot. But not lies the way that they're talking about. He really had like 10 or 12 really big lies that he would say a bunch of times. But all of his little lies were like just exaggerations, right? He could be third best and he'd say he's the best. He could be third worst and he'd say that, you know, he'd say that everybody else was the worst ever. And that's just the way Trump's mind works. He even wrote about it in Art of the Deal, that it's like a specific way to exaggerate because people like to think that they're the best ever. It's really weird. But anyway, enough about me. And I don't like Trump, but you know that. Anyway, but this is even more dangerous. But the other part that's biased about this is the way that they do ChatGPT's modeling is by human, like, reinforcement training. So as they fed ChatGPT its original training models, and then they would have a set of human administrators go over behind it and figure out what, you know, whether the answers it's giving are good or bad, and they would basically upvote them or downvote them as part of the programming, so that the computer would like adjust its knobs, its artificial intelligence knobs accordingly, and shift its weights. And so what I think here is twofold. I think not only are they training it on skewed data that suggests that the left side is more correct than the right side, but also I think that the administrators are also skewed. And so as the ChatGPT model spits out answers, they're downvoting all the ones that suggest that the conservative side is correct, and they're upvoting all the ones that suggest that the liberal side is correct. So it's like a perfect storm. It's a twofold, you know, battering of just right-leaning logic. So it's just, I mean, you guys have to be really careful. But let me know what you guys think. Has anybody else had experiences to this effect? I'm kind of curious to hear what everybody else has noticed from ChatGPT. So please post your comments below, and we'll talk about it some more on Couch Talk.